Agent Zero back in the DMV. Washington Wizards get a nail-biting win tonight, winning by 107-106, led by a combined 68 points by the Wizards' big three. Let's talk about it next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Scott again with my guy, the real Ed Oliver. Thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Sweatblock. Sweatblock is the sponsor tonight. So, close win against a Miami Heat team that was without Jimmy Butler and without Bam Adebayo, and Robinson was out tonight. So, I know this is a win. It's a dub. It's very, very ugly dub. But the Wizards do have issues. So the issues the Wizards have, are they fixable going forward?
I think they are. This win was, I hate to say an embarrassing win, but it was an ugly win. The Heat only had seven guys available. Like you said, Jimmy Butler being out, Bam Adebayo being out, Gabe Vincent out, Victor Oladipo out, multiple guys being out, and you know, Kyle Lowry having a triple double. Hayward Highsmith, Highsmith, he was clutch towards the end of the game. Jovic, and the Wizards just they struggle against playing against a zone. It's like they have chicken with their heads. They're like chickens with their heads cut off. And they were down by 15 at one point. It did get embarrassing in front of the Wizards' big three of Gilbert Arenas, Caron, and Anton. It really was. They were getting out hustled. They were getting outworked, out rebounded. They were not getting back on defense. So the things that they really have to fix is transition defense. I thought they moved the ball well. They shot, let me look through, 32% from the three-point line. Which is not, it's below average. They do have to get better shooting the three, but that's just not their calling. The 4-game win streak, they were really good at shooting threes, but transition defense and just defense in general. The Highsmith three at the top of the key, Brad and KP, I don't know what kind of communication they were doing, defending the screen, but that was awful. Porzingis was, he had to foul Highsmith because Highsmith got to the basket one time. They gave up a couple backdoor cuts as well. And they just got outworked tonight. The Heat, they didn't have a lot of, they had a lot of undrafted guys, and they played harder than the Wizards to start off. And the Wizards finally woke up in the second half, and they came back. But yes, I think the effort is fixable. I think the transition defense, that's just about 1-2 and wanting to get back. They have to work on that communication. And some of that is on West, too, teaching these guys and having them get back on defense. Some of that's on West Unseld Jr. That was a problem last year, too. So, and them adjusting, getting back playing with Bradley Beal, I still see them adjusting playing with him. Other guys were able to get in more rhythm while he was out. Now, Bradley Beal played well offensively, but I can still see some guys are still trying to get used to playing with him again. But yes, I do think some of the stuff is fixable. Taj Gibson played, and Gafford's out of the rotation now. So, but yeah, this was it was very discouraging. And I thought the Wizards got lucky too. One guy dropped a pass, their big man, I think it was Orlando Robinson one time. The challenge call, we got very fortunate with that. I thought that could have went to the Heat because Taj did hit the guy's hand who shot the three, honestly. Then the Heat challenge, they won their challenge. And I thought that was questionable the way they won their challenge. So the Wizards got some lucky breaks too, man. The Heat missed some open shots. Max Strus, that three-pointer that he shot at the end of the game, he definitely could have hit that. That was almost like an SGA rewind or deja vu there. So the Wizards, they got a little lucky tonight too. They did.
What do I say about this game? On one hand, I'm happy for the dub. Anytime you get a win, it's a win, but very ugly win. In my opinion, it shouldn't have been this close. Look, Miami was without Jimmy Butler. They were without Bam Adebayo. They had no center tonight, really. So, if you look at Gaff playing, how many minutes did he play? Let's see, 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
4 or 5 minutes. With a team that's lacking a true center, and you don't have your backup center in there, I think that alone is a questionable call. I don't know why. I don't know if he was hurting. I know he was feeling his shoulder in I believe it was the first quarter. You saw him kind of feeling his shoulder. So I don't know if he had shoulder issues. But again, that's unexcusable. They had no center. I mean, they had nobody but Kyle Lowry. Now, if you look at their stat line, Max Strus, like you said, 22 points. He dropped 22 in that last shot. Very well
Mhm.
could have went in. Uh, Jovic, 18 points. Young man was playing tonight. And Kyle Lowry, man,
Mhm.
jacking his name up. Triple double tonight, bro. Like, he did whatever he wanted. Now, another way they hit us tonight was free throws. If you look at the free throws, they shot 32 free throws compared to our 14. So they were getting to the line. They were getting foul calls. Now, you can look at a lot of calls. There were a lot of questionable calls, just like the last game. There's a lot of calls where you could say, "Come on, let them play." They're just ticky tack fouls. But this is ugly. This was a very ugly win. If you look at the starting, or not even starting, well, yeah, it was looking at the starting five.
Mhm.
Bill, 27 points, leading all scorers, 18 assists. I like what I saw from Bill tonight. He played well. It was an off shooting night for both Kuz and KP, but they both contributed 21 points and 20 points individually, and 17 rebounds for KP. So, if they're having bad games and they're still dropping 17 rebounds, I'm cool with that. But once you step outside the big three, Denny went down with an injury, so he 3 points. Monte was benched. We were talking about
Mhm.
before we started. He got benched. His final stat line was 6 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Looking at the bench, Corey Kispert, he has arrived. He is playing out his mind right now. His 3-point shot looks beautiful. I mean, he is rocking, man. 5 for 8 from behind the arc. Rui, another good game. Now, if you look at the final three guys from the bench, they all donut holes with points. Now, Gaff, again, 4 to 5 minutes played. Barton got benched, 0 points. And Taj Gibson, 0 points, but I thought that his leadership showed. We always talk about the effort, the categorical stats that aren't categorized. Hard work. He showed out through effort tonight. But outside of that, again, the bench struggles outside of Kispert and Rui. So
Mhm.
that's another area that needs to be shored up. So, again, very very ugly win.
100%. And we'll go in depth more about Taj and some more about the game, but we'll get a quick word from Brandon from Sweat Block.
Absolutely. Today's episode is brought to you by Sweat Block. Now, I'm a bigger dude. I like to work out and I sweat all the time. Sweat Block wipes were invented by a doctor and are guaranteed to work, or you don't pay. They call it the Sweat Block Dry Shirt Guarantee. The Sweat Block doesn't keep you dry, you get your money back. If you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, like me sometimes, try Sweat Block. Risk free today. Save 20% with promo code locked on at sweatblock.com. Also available at Amazon. So, talking about Taj, Taj, his leadership, his effort show tonight. It was we needed it. We needed it on the bench unit because this is another game where the bench struggles. And I had to say the bench overall because Kispert again did
Mhm.
well. Rui again did well. So, I know we're dealing with injuries. Jordan Good was out and DeLon Wright is out. Is there any other alternatives? Like maybe Chris Dunn or anybody you would like the Wizards to bring in to kind of solidify that second unit point guard position?
I would say, yeah, Chris Dunn. I want to bring him up. And Taj was huge tonight, man. He was diving on the floor. He had a couple deflections. He had 2 blocks. I did say it was a questionable call. I did not think that the Wizards were going to win that challenge at all. But they got very fortunate because Taj did hit his hand. There might be an NBA report that will come up, like the last 2 minute report that will say the call was wrong, but who cares? I'll take the win. I'll take the dub. He had 8 boards, 1 assist, 1 steal, plus 12 in a plus minus box. And I thought he did a good job setting screens. Now, he did take a shot at the end of the game. He was wide open at the high post, and he missed it. It was a wide open shot. That could have sealed the deal. We were already up by 1. Could have put us up by 3. Not seal the deal because, they could have came down and hit a 3. But Taj was huge tonight, and he won the defensive player of the belt tonight as well. So he was huge, man. And it just looks like Wes is just not fond of Daniel Gafford. Daniel Gafford only played 5 minutes. He was a -9, 0 points and 2 fouls. So he's really out of the rotation. You brought up Will Barton too. Will Barton 8 minutes tonight, 0 for 2. Will, he just -11. He has not gotten in a rhythm here in DC, and he takes a lot of tough shots. His shot selection, he takes a lot of tough shots. His shot selection is basically taking tough shots, a lot of heat check shots. We talked about this before. And he dribbles the ball a lot. It's a lot of ISO ball from him. I do like Will Barton's game. I do think he can help off the bench. I do think he can be a 6-man microwave scorer. but it just hasn't worked out so far in DC. Same thing with Monte. Monte was 0 for 5 tonight from the 3. I thought he made some good plays, though. He had a nice transition layup, and then he made a jumper as well. But, the Nuggets guys, they just haven't, they haven't really made a huge impact on this team and this roster so far. So I think Wes, it was huge for him to make a decision to go away from those guys. It was definitely a wonky decision to play Gibson and Porzingis at the same time, but it worked out at the end of the day. We wanted to see KP and Gaff play together, but it looks like Wes Unseld Jr. Definitely doesn't want to do that. The final lineup to close the overtime game was Bill, Kuz, Kispert, Taj, and Porzingis. And then another lineup that he had in there when they started to come back, when they took the lead, was once again it was Rui, Kispert, Kuz, Bill, and Taj. And that's when they started to come back. They were down by 75. They were down by 75 to 85. And with that lineup, they brought it up to 91-90. So it looks like Kispert, he needs some more playing time. He may have to start because he's shooting the ball well. Denny had a dislocated finger. It just wasn't his night tonight. He did give up a couple buckets. He only shot the ball twice. But he passed up a couple open shots, and he needs to shoot those threes. And they played a lot of the Heat played zone all game. So you need shooters out there. And it was Corey Kispert's night. If you're going to leave a shooter wide open, which was Eric Spoelstra's downfall, even though the zone was working for the most part, if you're going to leave shooters out there, Corey Kispert's a guy that definitely will hurt you. And he hit 5 to 3 tonight. Corey Kispert was huge tonight.
Corey Kispert was I'm not going to get to the player game yet because we ain't to that
Right.
point. But, I mean, look, he showed out. He is really playing well coming back from injury. He's shooting the ball at a high level. Like you said, 5 for 8 from the arc. They had no answer for Corey Kispert tonight. Again, Rui was solid. Those two guys have been solid on the bench unit. The starting unit, Bradley Beal, again, he had a very good game. 8 assists, 27 points. But like you said, Monte Morris and Barton are starting to become an issue somewhat. Monte Morris, I know that we have both Goodwin and DeLon right out, but we've got to look at some options at point guard because Monte Morris ain't in that starting point guard position. He's too passive. He doesn't have that jolt to drive the lane like Wall and Westbrook did. And that's exactly what this team needs. This is exactly what Gafford needs. He needs a point guard who's going to drive the lane. He's going to open up shooters on the perimeter. He's passive. And if you watch the game, there's plenty of opportunities for him to drive. I don't know if why he's hesitant, but they're leaving the lane wide open for him. They're daring him to drive. And there's times where I think there was a fast break tonight where he had a nice layup. So he can finish. I don't know why he's hesitant, but like you said, Barton, when he's on, he's on. When he's off, he's gone. He's not even part of the equation. So this acquisition from Denver I think it's run its course to a certain degree. Now Barton, he is on an expiring contract, so he could be paired on. We're talking. Hey, he's getting to that time of the year.
Yeah.
What is it? December 15th. People are already starting. The hot stove is already warming up. So, if you're looking to make a move, Barton expiring contract doesn't seem to fit in with the long-term outlook of the team, so he could be moved. Monte, I like Monte. I would love to see him stay to be the point guard of the second unit, but he's not it starting right now. He's just not it.
No, 100%. He's definitely not. But we're gonna get to I do want to give Bradley Beal props for when he got to the basket. He gave a really nice pass to Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma hit a clutch 3 to tie it to go to overtime. So that was a big play by Brad in the clutch. He did have a turnover in the clutch that I wasn't happy with, but Brad made some big plays down the clutch. He made a free throw. He made a layup as well to get the Wizards back and within reach, and then made the pass to Kuzma to hit the corner 3. Kuzma on the next play, you hit a 3 off the backboard. So it was just that kind of game. It really was. But we're gonna get to the player of the game, and then we'll get to a couple of comments, and then we'll wrap it up early tonight since it's Friday night. We're gonna let you guys enjoy your night. Before we do get to that, this episode is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online is super easy to use. I use it all the time on betting on sports, betting on football, Commanders, Wizards, whatever. BetOnline.net is your number one source for your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. We've got it all at BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Speaking of trades, we're going to talk about in another episode. Shams came up with a report. about the Suns wanting Kyle Kuzma. We don't have to talk about it now. We'll talk about it next episode. But I know I sent that to you. The Suns have interest in Kyle Kuzma. There's no interest in Barton and Monte, but the trade stuff is swirling around. Emmanuel Quickly is available. Derrick Rose is available. I'm not saying I want those guys, but I do think those guys like Quickly are faster than Monte Morris and can get to the paint. I mean, if you do want to chime in, you can, but we can definitely touch on this in another episode. I know we want to wrap it up tonight, so.
Yeah, it's Friday night, and I know everybody's trying to pop open
Mhm.
beers, man. So I'm not
Right. So we'll talk about it. Right. All right. So who was your player of the game?
Player of the game. I'm rolling with Kispert, man. I'm conflicted because I want to say Bill. We've been tough on Bill. He showed out tonight, 27 points, but I'm gonna say Kispert because coming back from injury, his shot is starting to look nice. He is starting to shoot the ball at a high level. Defensively, I'm rolling with the team. I'm rolling with Taj. I thought his effort tonight really kept the second unit out of trouble. Now, they didn't perform well outside of Rui and Kispert, but his energy and his leadership really showed. And the play of the game, I'm gonna add the play of the game. The play of the game is Kuzma hitting that 3-point shot to take us to overtime. That saved us right there.
Definitely. Yeah. My player of the game tonight. It's a tough one. I mean, KP, if you look at the numbers wise, you would say Porzingis just because of the rebounding, 20 points, 17 boards. But honestly, I thought he was a little finesse tonight. He didn't have him from the 3-point line. He was 7 for 20. He had a pump fake and he shied away. I thought he should have dominated a little bit more than what he did, especially with the Heat not having like a legitimate big center. Like they were playing Jovic at center, and Jovic is a very lean guy. I don't know how much he weighs, but he's a smaller guy too. And the other big that they had, Orlando Robinson, is a leaner guy as well. I thought Porzingis should have dominated those guys, even though they were playing zone. But to make a long story short, I'm gonna go with Bill. I am 27 points, 8 assists. He did have 7 turnovers, but he came through in the clutch and he made a smart pass to Kyle Kuzma for the 3-pointer in the clutch. So I got to give it up to Bill tonight. I thought he played well, but Kispert definitely is close. And Gibson was my X factor, or defensive player of the game, defensive belt winner of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Taj did well. His leadership really showed out tonight. But Kispert just continues to impress. These young guys are starting to really impress. Rui's had a really good year. Denny's kind of finding his shot, but the defense is there. But overall, I like what I see from the young guys. Even Johnny, he's shown out with the go-go. So, but out of the young guys, Rui and Kispert have just been impressive so far. So
yeah, Rui had he had a nice dunk where Porzingis had a nice pass to him as well. And I thought Rui got hot in the first half. I thought he played well for the most part, 6 for 11 from the field. Brad hit 5 threes tonight. Rui had 8 boards, so he was boarding as well, doing other things than just scoring. Had 3 assists, facilitated a little bit too as well, and 1 steal tonight. So I thought Rui played pretty well. But yeah, we're just gonna read 3 comments tonight and then wrap it up. Ben's starting off hot, man. Starting off hot. He says Will Barton is a street baller. He'd be perfect in a rec league where he can be the man and jack the ball up. LA Fitness legend. What do you think about that comment, Brandon? I'll let you take that one.
What do you say to that? Oh man. I would say that he's a little, like you were talking about earlier. He's an ISO guy where he's high energy. So when he's on, he's on. When he's off, he's off. So LA Fitness.
Reggie Pierre coming in hot as well. He says Monte Morris is Howell Neto. Honestly, Howell Neto got to the basket more than Monte. To be honest with you, he was quicker and faster. Now I can see both where you're coming in defensively, where they're both just turnstiles and cones or sieves. They're just too small on the defensive side of the ball. So, but I honestly, Howell got to the basket more than Monte. Brandon, you still there? Yeah. We'll read one more comment. Big O says, "Are you still there, Brandon? Did you have anything to say that or no?"
Where are we on Taj for MVP?
Yeah, we can skip the Howell. I already touched on the Howell Neto comment. We can just move on from that. Big O says Taj for MVP. Perfect Finance says, even if Bill scored 50, the 4-game winning streak showed us something we won't have on the court when Bill is around. Awful game, awful rotations. Hachimura was non-existent. No, yeah, perfect finance. I highly disagree with that. Rui had a good game. He played really solid, and he had a couple of deflections too. He almost had a steal, but it went out of bounds. And I thought he was moving his feet on defense. He gave effort. Rui was balling. We don't win this game without Rui tonight. He had a couple nice finishes around the rim. So I disagree with the Rui part. You said the 4-game winning streak showed us something we won't have on the court when Bill is around. I think they're still adjusting to him coming back. The Thunder game was a winnable game. I thought they should have won that game. It just came down to some adjustments from Wes. So I'm not blaming that loss on Bill. The other one, awful rotations. The rotations were questionable, but I think they played better. Their best rotation, the best five, Denny wasn't on the court with their best five. It was Kuz, the team that come back. I already said it was Taj, Bill, Kuzma, Kispert, and Rui was on the floor when they came back. They were down by 10, and Rui was on the floor when they came back. Denny didn't have a great game. He didn't have a bad game. Denny didn't. He wasn't really a deciding factor in the game tonight, and he hurt his finger. But Denny played well during the 4-game winning streak. I do agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I don't agree with Rui having. Yeah, I think he played well tonight. He had maybe a few bad games this year. I mean, overall, Rui's been very consistent on the bench, if not the most consistent player on the bench, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. John Who says can play Gibson and KP together, but no guy. Yeah, he's just Gafford is really in the doghouse for Wes Unseld Jr. I just don't know. And honestly, yes, you should just trade him. Brandon, you said to trade him. Now I'm on board with it. If you're not going to play him, you're going to pay. There's no reason to pay Gafford $13 million a year next year, 3 years, $40 million. If you're not going to play the young man, there needs to be a talk with Tommy Shepard and Wes Unseld Jr. They need to be on the same page. Because obviously, I don't know what's going on. They look like they're not on the same page, and they need to make something happen there.
Thank you. I was just about to say that. They're not on the same page. They need to talk, because to give this guy an extension, that's pretty much saying that this is going to be your backup center going forward. So when you're playing a guy 4 or 5 minutes a game, either they're, because really you don't know if they're showcasing them because they're not playing them. So
right, they're not. Yep.
So it's a tough one. I don't. Oh, K Vin says, I wonder if Gafford could be the trade piece for John Collins. There was a report of John Collins being shopped by Atlanta.
Yep.
And we talked about this going to the offseason. I don't think you were in a favor of John Collins coming to DC, were you?
It depends on the package. Because the package that was floated out there was Kuzma for John Collins, and I don't think John Collins is better than Kuzma. I think it's a lateral move, So I didn't see a point in trading for John Collins. John Collins, he's a good player, but he's a guy that needs to be spoon fed too. He's not a guy that can score off the dribble. Like Trae Young throws lobs to him. Same thing with DeJounte Murray, and we don't have a guy that can do that on this roster. The Wizards need a point. They don't need another big, in my opinion. They need a point guard. That's their biggest need, and they need a 3-and-D small forward. The Suns trade, and we'll talk about that later with Kuz, it would have to be. It would have to be Jay Crowder would have to be included in that trade, and that he could be a 3-and-D answer. But then you lose Kuz, who really helps this team. So it's really no win-win with trading him to the Suns. But like I said, that's another conversation for another day. But in order to get John Collins, you have to include Kuz in that trade, and I think I'd rather just keep Kuz. And John Collins is getting paid more than Kuz. John Collins is getting paid $25 million a year. There's really no point in doing that when Kuz is on 13. Now Kuz is going to get paid more next year, yes. So that's probably why the report came out too, because they know the Suns know the Wizards have to make a decision on Kuz. So the Suns are like, what are you going to do with Kuz?
Yeah, I'm not moving Kuz for Jay Crowder. I mean, I know I was in favor of Jay Crowder coming to DC, but not for Kuz. I'm a big fan of Kuz, and I just, just like you said with Bill, I'm not just going to give him away unless it's for an expiring contract, like we were talking about Russ coming over from the LA. But let's do one more comment. Let's see. Peace says, one word to describe the game: embarrassment.
It was.
It was, because this shouldn't have been that close. We beat them in overtime by 1.
Right.
I mean, they're without Jimmy Butler. They're without Bam. They're without Robinson. They're sharpshooter. Kyle Lowry's almost single-handedly beat us tonight. So, I mean, on one hand, it's good to see a dub, but on the other hand, it's like, what are we talking about if we're barely beating an side. Look, they ran 7-man rotation tonight.
It was a
You know,
almost 7 players suited up.
yeah. I mean, come on, and we barely beat them. I think that's alarming. We got Charlotte. Charlotte. I think Melo's out again.
Yep.
So you can look at Charlotte at because it's the final game of the homestand. You want to say there's a winnable game, but really, because they got some guys. They got more guys healthy than Miami does.
Hmm.
So if they're not. If the transition defense isn't shorter by then, you could see Charlotte come in Capital One and run the tables. It's just so it's a very embarrassing win.
Right. And I'll list off the Wizards win. They beat the Grizzlies out without Ja. They beat the Bulls without Zach LaVine. There's just so many. They beat the Sixers without Joel Embiid. There's so many games that the Wizards have been fortunate where their stars have not played. So it is concerning when they start playing. They beat the Mavericks without Christian Wood. I mean, you can say we didn't have Porzingis that game, but a lot of the games, even that we played the Nets without Kyrie, without Ben Simmons, and we got blown out by 42. So I mean, there's just a lot, and then we beat the Pacers without Miles Turner, and then Miles Turner plays, and we get blown out by the Pacers. So a lot of their wins really have been against teams without their number one or number two or number three options, or just their star MVP. Ja Morant's an MVP caliber player. Joel Embiid's an MVP caliber player, and we played a lot of teams without Jimmy Butler's an all-star, Bam Adebayo's an all-star. So I mean, what I'm getting at is it's you got to look at that, man. So when the Wizards start playing more healthy teams, how are they going to do? How are they going to respond?
Yeah, right before roll, my comment is this: this team needs. I don't know if they need to do a players only meeting. I don't know if Tommy needs to talk to West behind closed doors, have lunch, talk about this, but they need an identity. Enough of this, roller coaster ride. You're beating good teams, you're losing to bad teams. You got to have an identity. You really do, because like I said, that stove is getting hot. Hot stove is coming, man. So they got to figure it out quick. But we're gonna go ahead and end it there. I know we want to appreciate everybody showing out tonight. It's Friday night, definitely beer 30. So definitely appreciate you guys coming out tonight. So thank you for making the Locked On Wizards your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and then take it today. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. So we're trying to get 3,000. So help us out. Definitely like, subscribe, comment. Check me and my guy, the real Ed Oliver, on Twitter and Instagram. Hit us up. And again, thank you everybody for showing out tonight. Everybody have a blessed Friday night. Have a good weekend, and see you on Sunday night. The Wizards are playing at home. Last game of the homestand against the Charlotte Hornets. So again, everybody have a good night and peace.